first of all, I'm a fan of music, and I love the music scene in Little Rock, and I love all types of music, whether that's jazz, hip hop, rock, reggae, roots, rock and roll, soul music, blues music. And one of the venues that I perform at here in Little Rock is the Rev Room, Revolutionary Room, and my relationship with Mr. LD and getting connected with Elvis. And I'm an Elvis fan. I've played these type of shows in the past, so it seemed to be kind of a natural fit and something different, and that I'm excited to be a part of.
Recognized and certified by Elvis Presley Enterprises. So Ultimate Elvis is a competition that they hold every year, and the finals are in Memphis, Tennessee. So in order to be part of this, you got to win a preliminary competition. So Legends in Concert in 2000, whatever it was, one of the first years I started doing the Ultimate Elvis, I won a competition which got me into the finals of the Ultimate Elvis competition, which that's how they recognize you. And they certify you by using your work. So after the competition was over, they called me, used me for a little work, So I get to work from EP with EP from time to time, and it allows me to be certified and recognized by Elvis Presley Enterprises. Because of being in the Elvis world, I learned a lot about Elvis's career in his 50s, and different artists and record labels he worked under. And Sam Phillips was kind of the father. He was coined the father of rock and roll, where he founded Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, Jerry Lewis, which the show The $1 Million Quartet is about. A special day that they all kind of showed up. Elvis was called back. Sam Phillips just sold Elvis to RCA for $30,000. It was kind of like his big break, because you sell your best and then you make your money off of the rest. So he had Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, just got this brand new kid, Jerry Lee Lewis, and he was going to put all his money into those guys. And then so you start to realize that Sam Phillips was something. Well, what was Sam Phillips? How come he was the father of rock and roll? Did he just find these guys? Did he just find the right talents? What was he? How did he find these guys? Well, he screened. He screened. He understood the culture. He understood the black music that was going on, and he gave them opportunity where no one had opportunity before. You can come to this recording studio for $5 and you record your album. So you get a record, you take it home with you, you can play it on your record. If it's good enough, they put it on radio. So he had that running, man, where he didn't want to be just a radio guy. Out of the military, he's a radio guy. He also wanted to record records. So he records these records, man, and he gives these guys opportunity to be heard, and the whole world's getting this culture, the culture, which are kind of rejecting it. But then he takes Elvis and he's like, man, I've got to find this white kid who can take this black music and bring it in and set the record straight and put this new idea of music and culture through. And so they found Elvis Presley, who was this poor kid. So what Sam Phillips did was genius, because some people say it wasn't genius or it was just ingenuity, but it was just him testing the waters. And he also did a woman's radio station where it was all women, and he was breaking barriers there, So Sam Phillips was like overdoing himself, always just running, always looking for the next thing. Drove around the country giving out these records to radio stations, trying to make a hit. So I think the most interesting thing about Sun Records is that it was the hard work of Sam Phillips and his mindset that he could find the connection between the two. The thing that was going on was race. So what he was trying to do is just prove that this has nothing to do with ethnicity. This has to do with love of music, and that's exactly what he did. But he had vision. So his biggest thing at Sun Records, a small little studio, was bringing all the world in to see something that was happening to a really hard place, Memphis, Tennessee, where the worst of the worst was happening. So it was peace. Memphis comes back to another place of peace. Throughout time, throughout history, Memphis, the hard times and the struggle that people go through, end up coming on top and shining, to show that peace prevails and love. It's always, I think that's what Sam Phillips accomplished with his music and filtering and being able to push different ideas that were being fought against the time. And he was really a pioneer, as well as Elvis. But Elvis was just the tool that was used. Sam Phillips had the idea. He's the one that really created the whole heart and soul of rock and roll. So it's very, very interesting when you look at the depths of what he did and what was on his heart and what was on his mind and what he never gave up on.
That's a great question, and I'm glad that you asked the question. And I think it's great that you even alluded to a little bit of this black music, And granted, history allows us to look back and see what it was back then, you know. And to answer the question is knowing the history and knowing where it comes from, and that's all facets of life. If you know, especially in this day and time when you're talking about this country and who belongs and who doesn't belong, and if you know your history, you know who was here first. So I think you can be an Elvis fan. I'm an Elvis fan because the music speaks to you. It came through at a time where I think people, you know, he was a little bit of a rebel, you know. He was someone that kind of pushed the envelope. He didn't fit in this frame, and I think people can identify with that. People who are visionaries and legendary are often the ones that kind of push that envelope, and they always kind of come with some type of controversy. You know, I always think about you know, music and what's happening in society. I always kind of correlate at the time, you know, and it also lets you know when something is changing. When you look at the music, what artists are doing in whatever specific decade, you can tell, you know, what tides are turning. So Elvis, from that perspective, is one that didn't fit in a box. You know, he was a rebel. When I think of Elvis, I always think about James Dean, you know, the guy that kind of pushed the envelope. He was the guy that your parents were afraid of, you know. But musically, you know, the music was great. You know where the music came from, and history tells us where it comes from. So I think if you know your history and you can identify with it, and know where it comes from, I think you can be, in my opinion, because I'm an Elvis fan. You know, I'm an Elvis fan. I'm a Michael Jackson fan. I love Gustav Holst, which is, you know, a classical composer. So musically, you can't deny music. Music is music, and knowing where the music comes from, it only, in my opinion, it only gives confirmation of those people who live that life, who suffered in that life, because you're celebrating this music. So it's almost like there's an affirmation as well. So I'm saying a lot. Hopefully it makes sense. So yes, you can be an Elvis fan and be woke. Specifically, you know, I think being an African American male and knowing struggles. You talk about Memphis. You know, I agree. There's been conflict and hard times in Memphis, and you think of rock and roll, but then if you fast forward to the 60s and 70s, there was another, Stax Records was another record company that changed the face of music and how business was doing. You had the folks in New York and the West Coast wanting to get that Memphis sound, and then it trickles to Muscle Shoals, Alabama. People wanting to get that sound, and what that sound is soul, it's emotion, it's life, it's grit, it's hard times. So again, you can be woke, in my opinion, and be an Elvis fan, but you must recognize where it came from and how history was back in those days.
We got some of that. All right. Nice.